What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to everybody's favorite show, Bev Boys. I'm Brian,
I'm Christian.
and of course, this is your one-stop shop for all of your energy drink reviews and, of course, performance talks. Today, I'm not gonna lie, the weekend kind of banged us out. Christian had a wedding. Shout out to certified Bev Boy Matt Law Jones and his beautiful wife Kelsey. They got married, so Christian's got the post wedding wake up today. He's got a little bit of bedhead. I myself, unfortunately, I couldn't make it because I had to do my job and had a track meet. So I was at a meet for 16 hours. So we're gonna go with the flow here, feel things out, and we're gonna have a little bit of fun. What do you got
That's
today,
right.
Christian?
Yeah, so staying at a hotel by the airport, so we are a little bit away from everything, but we're able to walk along the side of the road down to a Phillips 66 because I was fiending, and I picked up not a huge selection, but the selection they did have, they had deals on almost everything. A lot of 2 for 5s, 2 for 550s. So I picked up 2 for 450, and this is something that I hadn't really had before yesterday. We've had it once on the show, I believe, but it is a rain storm. So this is kind of their almost like their clean, healthy version of the rain energy, kind of similar to a Celsius. Pick this up on a 2 for 450, so a really good deal. 200 mgs of caffeine, got a 12-ounce can, and this is the guava strawberry flavor. I think yesterday I had the kiwi blend, which I think was the one that you had on the show. It was like the
Yeah.
kiwi apple. Um, Not bad, to be honest. A little bit of a weird aftertaste, but I like the kiwi apple. I haven't really seen strawberry flavors are usually I'm usually a big fan of, so we'll see what that guava does in there. And I kind of left this one too, just because the can looks sick, the colors here. But yeah, like I said, 200 milligrams of caffeine. I think it's coming from more of like a green tea coffee bean extract for kind of more of a smooth flavor. Just 10 calories, 5 grams of carbs with 2 grams of erythritol. You got your vitamins in there and stuff. I don't know if there's really anything else besides the caffeine. It doesn't really look like there's anything crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read the back here. Harness the power of great tasting clean energy. PhD formulated without artificially sourced caffeine or colors and pasteurized for your safety without added preservatives, sodium benzoate, or potassium sorbate.
Sorbet.
And of course it says it's scientifically proven. Individual results may vary. I like that.
While it is scientifically proven, it might not work for you.
Yeah, exactly. And it does say plant-based energy. So I'm assuming it has
Okay.
to be
It's got to be green
coffee or
tea
green
or green
tea.
coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It has to
Um,
be one of the two. So
Two things. Number one, I had that can in my hand when I was picking, and then I put it back because I found this something that we haven't had in the show in a long time. Second, like 4 days ago, I had a guava, like a real guava.
oh, like the fruit?
Yeah, those are incredible. It's like the texture's like a pear, but it's like tart, like
Okay.
Granny Smith apple. Like think of like a pear with like Granny Smith apple. It's really good.
Yeah, I haven't
Had that
had
in a
a
persimmon.
guava. What is that?
A persimmon. It looks like a tomato, but then it like the texture. So like it looks like a tomato, and you and but when you like peel the skin off, it looks almost maybe like a peach, but it's very like if it's ripe, it's very sweet, like a cutie.
Okay.
But the texture's like a peach, so they're really soft. They're really good.
Yeah, you've been on the exotic fruit grind lately. Sounds
I don't
like.
know if you know this, but I'm an exotic fruit dealer now.
Yeah, I guess so. Dude, when I
um,
was in when I was in when I was in the DR, the food there wasn't always great, but the fruit a lot of times usually was really good because it was really fresh, like
mhm.
pineapple, dragon fruit,
Ooh,
like fresh melon, all that type of stuff. Really good.
like fresh dragon fruit. I bet like that would be. There's a couple energy drinks that do like a dragon fruit flavor, and I think it ends up turning out pretty good. But I think like a fresh dragon fruit would be good. I mean, I've never had one.
Yeah.
Not to fret though. The reason I put that can down and I got this can is because we're not going to have this can anymore. This drink's going to be gone. So I figured one last time to send it off as one of a really highly ranked energy drink for us. And that's the Ghost Sour Black Cherry Warheads flavor.
Yeah.
It's great. Unfortunately, it's going to be gone soon. Um, as people know, that Mondelez deal is kind of they're like dripping it away as they slowly move away from Mondelez with their deal. Reading the back though, only intended for persons 18 or older. They don't have a write up or anything like that. That's about it. 1,000 milligrams of pure carnitine. They changed the carnitine so that way it didn't like essentially. I guess I'm trying to think of the word. I'm just blanking. I'm thinking in finance from like our last episode of like depreciate, but it doesn't like break apart by using the different version of carnitine. 200 milligrams of caffeine. That obviously we know the source. 100 milligrams of neurofactor, which is that coffee bean extract. 150 milligrams of alpha GPC. That is that 50%. So you get a good yield off of that. And then 100% of 4 daily vitamins. And just like every other energy drink, I bet you can guess what those vitamins are.
All the B vitamins.
All the B vitamins and vitamin C.
B12, vitamin C. Yeah.
Yep.
B3, B6, B12, vitamin C.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, that is going to be. We were talking before we started. I was at Vitamin Shop, and they do still have the Chips Ahoy protein from Ghost, and I believe the Oreo protein from Ghost that's included with that deal. But I do wonder. I'm assuming probably. I don't know if it's a certain date or they're just like once the stock that was made is gone, that's just going to be it, or what that's going to be. But
I think it was through the end of the year. They were going to like produce it and slowly phase it out. So that way, because it was originally going to be like a hard cutoff. And whatever was there, that was all you were getting. Mm-hmm. And there was so much there wasn't backlash. It was like outcry of like, no, please don't. That Mondelez was like, all right, you guys can like finish producing it in smaller batches through the end of the year to like slowly trickle it out. Yeah. And that happened in like the course of a week. But should we do it for this drink probably one last time on the show?
It's pop top.
It still smells good as ever.
A little bit more of a subtle pop on this one.
Don't have like the.
Yeah. I feel like I get that more from. I don't even want to say like the 12-ounce cans, but certain like skinny cans like Celsius.
It's a flatter pop.
Yeah, I think it's the drinks that don't have as much carbonation.
Which, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the only one that like actually has like a good like pop on that is like Bum. Like when you do it, like even Red Bull is like a little bit more of a flatter pop.
Yeah,
Celsius for sure is. Rain Storm is. The Alani News, like those can just get crushed underneath a street sweeper. Even like the White Monster, the 12-ounce Monster cans, those are a little bit flatter too. So I think there's something to be said about making it a 16-ounce can. Mm-hmm. Which I think, if I'm wrong, this is my theory on why they moved to a lot of 12-ounce cans. Because it's cheaper. A 16-ounce can you kind of have to make versus those 12-ounce cans. Think of the other beverage industry that always has 12-ounce cans, not in the short stubs, but in the long skinnies.
Yep.
All those seltzers, beers, all those are everywhere. So they just use the same canning facilities to can them. And they probably save a lot of money, which is, I get it's like, okay, gotta have like increase your margins. There's something about like a can that fits in your hand, you know, it's just right.
Yeah.
Versus the skinny cans suck.
Yeah.
Bomb, bring back the short stubs. I love the 12-ounce stubby can. Those are so sick.
The flavor on this is interesting.
Talk me through it.
I can taste the strawberry for sure. And I think what I'm tasting right away is the guava. I've never had a guava, so it's also tough for me to judge on that flavor. A little bit of an interesting aftertaste. I got the same thing yesterday. I'm not a huge fan of it. I can't really describe it. It's not good, but it's not terrible.
Okay.
It's not terrible. Um, I don't know. These must be decently popular though because they've been around for a minute, and I do see them quite a few places.
I
I think
wonder.
I think this is like after they did like the Rain Inferno, and
Hmm.
those didn't really like stick
They
around for
switched
very
to that.
long. I think they switched to this pretty quickly.
The Rain Inferno felt like it was here and gone within 3 months.
Yeah, it was a quick stint.
Um, I just looked up like guava flavored energy drinks. Like not many people do them. We have obviously Rainstorm that you have in your hand, the Celsius one, the A Shock Accelerator Island Guava.
Oh, have you ever had one of those? An A
They're
Shock?
they're kind of rancid.
Yeah, they're kind of trash. I
The
remember
only
we had those at Casey's when I worked there, and like I remember like there was like deals on them. Like when we first got them in, like if you had the Casey's rewards, you could get one for free. I was like, this is sick. I was like, oh, this is kind of trash.
like they're the branding and everything and like the marketing on it and where they pop up. It reminds me of like a Rip It or like one of those
Yeah,
or those like Viper like energy drinks. Like really kind of cheesy. It's like something that you would find in like a Dollar Tree. It looks like
yeah.
of like we sell
Or at
energy
the
drinks too.
right, or at the racetrack.
Yeah. Yes.
At the
But it's
racetrack.
not like but like it's weird because like Travis Kelsey has a stake in him.
Bad
Like I just
flavors.
yeah,
Bad
bad
flavors.
flavors, bad vibe.
Yeah,
Um,
bad vibes, bad flavors.
and then the only other guava like true energy drink is like the Monster Ultra Vice, which we do love.
Yeah,
So
I do like that one. I want to get
uh,
my hands on the new Monster Ultra. It's that
Purple Passion,
it's yep, that
I
purple
had it.
passion. Was it good?
I should have saved it for the show, and I didn't. Um, Review pending until I get another can for the show, but not terrible, not bad. It's a solid flavor. I think it's the second best purple flavor from Monster, behind that
Okay.
like the ultraviolet because that's like the grape flavor, which I think is really good. Um, it's very light. It's more so like the ultra guava, the like white monster, or like the pink grapefruit one.
Mm,
Very light flavoring. Like I think on like a hot day, that one would serve a great purpose.
okay.
It's not too like sweet or anything. Um, I also did look up like dragon fruit flavors. There's only like two energy drinks that do dragon fruit, besides Red Bull. Who I think Red Bull did a really good job with their dragon fruit flavor. But Celsius Essentials, the like 300, the 274 milligram caffeine, like 16-ounce can, and then Celsius Fizz Free energy drinks, which sounds terrible. Um,
Yeah, not a fan.
and then Bum Energy makes a ready to drink pre workout um, dragon fruit
Okay.
flavor, which I bet that would be pretty good. And then G Fuel, but whatever happened to G Fuel? I feel like did we accidentally kill G Fuel when we did our episode with John?
Episode with John. I don't know whatever happened to that. I haven't heard. I
They
haven't seen him really post about it like a whole lot.
Yeah, but it also like I haven't seen G Fuel anywhere but like a Quick Trip, Quick Star. Like they're not
Yeah.
everywhere anymore.
No.
Really, really died off. Dang, were we title of the episode? Were we the death of G Fuel?
Yeah, with the death of G Fuel. I don't know.
But yeah,
Yeah, dude. Speaking of, I was gonna say I haven't really seen John post much content about G Fuel, but yet I just saw him post a. You see the reel where he posted about
unreal. Lane Kiffin.
roasting Lane Kiffin. I mean, that's a talking point in and of itself
Yeah,
because okay, there's two ways you can. There's a couple ways you can look at this. Obviously, like okay, Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss for the LSU job.
yeah.
One, it's like okay, it looks. Does
It
it
looks
look a little bad?
It looks bad
Yeah,
from the outside.
but
Um,
okay, is anyone? You're not turning that job down. That's arguably
that's
like the most prestigious, like it's like, yes, he's already in the SEC, but between
But
like
that is
that,
like
Alabama, maybe Oregon, like there's very few jobs that are as prestigious as LSU football head coach and
very true.
have the resources, the access to like donors,
Very true.
boosters. Like it's just not the same. Like before Lane Kiffin was there at Ole Miss, like they were kind of a run of the mill, middle of the pack SEC program.
And he really brought it up, elevated it, showed that he could compete in the SEC without those resources. So what does a guy like him do with everything in his hands without Nick Saban in the SEC?
Right. Like this is just like how it goes. Like this is how I
Yeah.
was talking. Shout out my boss, Blaine Kinsley. He was we were watching this on TV. We were like seeing the clips where like the Ole Miss fans were like flipping him off as he boarded the plane. He's like they should be thanking him. This is just part of the Lane Kiffin experience. Like they
He
just got to
comes
be a
and
part of
goes.
it.
You're breezing to
Yeah,
win it. He wasn't your coach. It was just your time with him.
yeah. Honestly, like it's. I mean, for high profile coaches like that, that's how it goes. Like you take the job, you take the next job, the better job. It's
And you keep moving. And like that's
yeah.
that's what they do. And
And if he does good there, he might end up in the NFL in the next few years. Who knows?
and who knows, maybe that might be his goal. But
Yeah,
I think like one thing that like we tend to forget about, right? Everyone has this like coaches shouldn't get to leave for the next job, like, and that kind of like started the transfer portal stuff where kids could leave, and now every year has become the free agency for college athletics everywhere you go. Smaller teams get gutted, those kids move up, and I'm never gonna hate a kid for going to like, hey, go make the money, go have a chance to play at a better, whatever you see fit kind of a school. Like that's a good thing. However, like the only like negativity that like kids get from like the transfer portal that you see outside is like the kid that left Tennessee and went to UCLA and just kind of shit the bed. You know,
yeah,
you only see the absolute travesties, but every coach that kind of leaves gets absolutely scrutinized by everyone in college football. And that's
mm,
always been the case. Now they could always leave, but no one leaves and is like, we love that guy. Like that's awesome. That's good for him that he's leaving. They're always like, oh fuck him. Like he's a demon. Like they demonize the person first versus like, okay, put yourself in that position. Like, wouldn't you take that job?
yeah.
If
You
and
saw how
he
much
could,
money it was for.
yeah, like he could get fired in 2 years and live the best life for his family. And maybe it's like something to be said that he could have like not gotten fired or he was already in that position at Ole Miss, whatever it is. But there's also like that internal like guy wants to prove it. He wants to win. He wants to win a national championship. He might feel that he's got a better chance to do that with those resources there. Now at the same time, you have everything at your fingertips. If it doesn't go well and you're not a 10-1 team at the end of the season, you're probably getting fired, just like they did to Brian Kelly. There's like they did to Coach O and so on and so forth. Like
Yeah,
those things happen. And I mean, Lane Kiffin's a guy that's probably going to be able to deal with that. That guy doesn't care. He's all about action.
yeah.
Um, but I just think a lot of coaches get too much hate for job hopping when that's kind of the industry. It's not often, and only the
The
head coach can
system.
really get.
It's a product of the system.
Yeah. And only the head coach can really get like, hey, we're gonna sign your contract for like way bigger. But like it's not that's how you have to move up to make more money or expand like what you can do. Like you go to the next school. You don't a lot of times they don't grow you within an organization unless you're the head coach and maybe he kind of felt like, okay, I'm reaching my limit at Ole Miss.
Yeah, yeah,
All the way back to that was a sick video though. That shit was hilarious. I was crying.
yeah. Definitely follow John Seaton on Instagram. Great follow.
Yeah.
Um,
Our boy's killing it.
yeah. I know a lot of people are like hands up in the air about like, oh, like they should change the schedule of college football so this doesn't happen. Like, I don't see that happening, to be honest. Like, that would require such a massive change in the schedule for this not to happen. Like, because think
That's
about
such
it,
an overhaul.
LSU. Yeah, like I mean, Just think about it. Like LSU isn't going to make the college football playoff. I don't know what their record is. Like they're probably going to make a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but think about it. Ole Miss is probably set to be in the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
It could potentially be playing into the next year. January, late December, January, versus LSU is going to be done much before that, and you can't miss out on that time where there's going to be some teams that start their off season before those teams in the college football playoff that are playing in the championship end their actual season. So if you think
Mm-hmm.
about that, like you can't afford to lose that time with the new head coach, especially like new regime. They're probably going to want to set their precedent with their new culture, their new standards, getting their new staff introduced and all that stuff. That's just how it has to be, I think. Like, yeah, could they change the schedule all around? But I just don't see that happening. I think that would
Yeah,
create more problems than it would solve.
very true. And it's the other thing is like when you're dealing in that caliber where there's no like day off at that level, especially if you're a
No.
head coach. Like he's already starting recruiting. He's
Yeah. He got
you
on that
know
plane, got introduced, and he probably started working right away. It's not
yeah,
like he just gets
and
to chill until end of the year.
it, exactly, and especially in college football now, they're they're just thinking like, oh my god, like maybe half this team leaves. How do I refill and refuel for next year? You know,
Hmm.
would I be surprised if you start seeing a lot of Ole Miss players start showing up on LSU's campus? We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be very surprised. I think he would take a lot from them, and then all the other schools are just waiting to see if they can get a call from that guy to see like, hey,
Yeah.
can they come in? And then Diego Pavia was like, maybe I'll come back for my 9th year.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon with the college football schedule. But
No, the other thing that was weird, there's there's like one agent that really represents a ton of like the head coaches in college football, and it's like they're trying to like, I think it might have been like Penn State like filed a suit or like we're talking about it. I saw a news article because he represents almost every head coach. When he also represents James Franklin, who now is at Virginia Tech. They're thinking that there's collusion, that he's like basically telling them like, don't take this job, don't take this job. And all these other schools who have started later in their head coaching process have already filled them, you know, and and Penn State is sitting there kind of with, sitting on their thumb, like we don't have a head coach still. And they
yeah.
think it's because he's basically like shooting it down every chance he gets of like, don't
Okay.
go to that school because they kind of wronged James Franklin.
Yeah. I heard some people say that Lincoln Riley would be like a target for that job, but I don't know. That's how you know it's high level when you have an agent like as a coach. Honestly,
Yeah.
dude, in the sports industry, agent is like where it's at. Like you can have a lot of like you can make a lot of money, have a lot of influence. Um, I know
Without
there's even like
there's no like floor really
yeah,
because
exactly. Like you're tied to the people, not the actual like schools. I know
yeah.
even some like higher profile like strength coaches. I don't know if you would necessarily say they have an agent, but like they'll have someone where they're like, okay, I'm going to take this new job. This is the contract. Look through it. Tell me if there's anything, essentially like an attorney or something like that. Make sure
Hmm.
I'm not getting like too screwed over. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, Jimmy Sexton is the agent, but he represents Franklin, Billy Napier, Mike Norvell. Like it's insane, and he's like, like Barstool did an article on him, and it's like him walking out in Georgia, or sorry, him walking out of the tunnel with Lane Kiffin. He's Lane Kiffin's guy too. Um, like he's showing up behind, you know, uh, sorry, he's showing up. What's the Saturday, the ESPN like game day morning? Like he's in the background, like just standing there, like in the front of the crowd. all this stuff. Like he's got, coach, this is funny. Coach gets a new $1 million contract. Jimmy Sexton gets money. Coach gets fired and gets multi-million-dollar buyout. Jimmy Sexton gets money. Back to coach gets a new multi-million-dollar contract. Jimmy Sexton gets money.
It's just always raking in dough.
Yeah. So like here's one. Like Jimmy Sexton put on a masterclass this week. Number one, his client Nick Saban retires. He uses the Alabama job as leverages to get raises for his other clients like Dan Lanning, Mike Norvell, and Steve Sarkisian. He then places another client, Kalen DeBoer, at Alabama. Textbook stuff.
Yeah, he's running the game.
I mean, when you think about it in that terms of like, this is like one guy orchestrating the elevation of every head coach salary basically in Power 4 football by just saying, go take that interview because then I can call you, for like Dan Lanning. I'll call Oregon and say, he's looking at
He's
the
gonna
job.
take it.
He's going to take it. You got to give him a raise. Do it. And then goes over, does it with Mike Norvell. Goes over to Texas and says, Steve, do the same thing. Now they all just got, $2-3 million raises. Yeah. And then he's like, okay, Kalen, don't worry. You were the one that's going to get it the whole time. But I'm going to make sure that they're going to think that, say Washington was going to pay you even more to stay. I'm going to up it with Bama.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, when you think about that, that's nuts, man. Is this guy genius? Is he the best guy ever to try and get this done, or is he a demon? That's like the thing to think about. Is like, if you're coming up, do you have a chance of getting a job without him? And he's like the, is he the Harvey Weinstein of college football head coaching?
He's like the gatekeeper.
Yeah. Or is this dude like the hero that nobody thought they needed because he's going to make sure everyone gets paid enough that like eventually if something turns sour, they're good and they're going to be set up. I guess there's just two ways to look at that.
Yeah.
Should we go be agents for, I guess, like position coaches and get them paid more?
Yeah. To be honest. Yeah, that's wild to think about. Coaches having agents. I mean, it makes sense though.
It does. It's so weird that like it's so much less about like I don't want to say it's less about being good at your job because obviously like a lot of these people are very good at their jobs. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like that doesn't even matter. Like that's your buy-in to the game.
Right.
And then once you're bought in, like you've got your chips on the table, you got to come to him and he's going to have to get you a spot, Like you can't be just good at your job. You got to have someone like that to be able to get the higher profile, get the big payout, whatever it may be.
Yeah. It's wild.
God, I know that dude's bank account probably goes crazy.
Yeah, a lot of zeros.
It's probably like, hey, he gets like 1% of everything. So every time, you think about like him getting, say, 6 head coaches new jobs this year, he's probably made over $1 million just from that.
Yeah, he's definitely raking it in.
I wonder how much he kind of chills out, like once the hiring frenzy and firing frenzy like is done. Or is he just like back in the books scanning for the next one of like, this one looks like it's going to turn over next year, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I have no idea, to be honest with you.
It's just, yeah, that's one of those things where I'm like, I'd love to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wanted to bring up, so I'm lucky. I'm basically finished working for the year. One of the perks of being in pro baseball. End of the year comes, you kind of just get to chill. Obviously, like it's kind of true in some other jobs, but if you work basketball, this is obviously like busy season for you. But we finished off the year with some continuing education in Arizona, and we brought in this guy. His name's Austin Einhorn. Actually did a really good job. I was a big fan. I think he brought some cool new ideas to us. And it got me thinking because there was a lot of stuff I took away that I think we can actually implement, and like a lot of people can implement. But there was some other stuff that got me thinking about, when people that teach courses or have like a system, so to say, whether it's, PRI or FMS, stuff like that, how much of that stuff is got me thinking how much of that stuff is actually helping solve a problem versus looking for problems that aren't there in the first place. And I'm talking like, because a lot of this stuff, like, I think it comes back to the belief that we think there's an optimal way or an optimal, you should have X amount of range of motion at this joint. You should be able to do X task in X amount of time to just be like, generally like healthy for a normal person or for an athlete. How much of that stuff, and then like, okay, if you can't do that, you need to do X thing in order to get to that threshold. How much of that stuff is actually helping versus just searching for problems that aren't there? And it gets real hairy too, because a lot of people are making like this is their livelihood. And like I do think that they believe, like they obviously like believe in their system and their principles, and think that what they're doing is helping mitigate injury risk, stuff like that. But it just makes you think. And obviously, like I'm on the other side where like they know their system better than anyone if they're the
Yeah.
ones that created it, and I'm just kind of like a spectator here trying to learn. But it also kind of makes me think like I'm typically I feel like I've gotten a little more skeptical over the years, which I think is a good thing. I think you should be skeptical of a lot of things at first glance until it's not even like a bad thing. You just want to make sure that you have a little bit of a bullshit meter, and then see for yourself, not just take everything that they say as gospel. But it just made me think like how many of those things where it's okay, we're testing range of motion, we're looking for super subtle differences. How much of that stuff really matters versus just looking for problems where we can, okay, let me intervene here to make it look like I'm actually doing something versus just being like, okay, like it doesn't really matter that much.
It's a weird, like you said, like they're obviously going to be mass believers in their own system and what they're telling you. To a certain extent, are they, you know, almost like a cult where even if they didn't agree with it at first, now that they're in it and they have like skin in the game on that to where like their livelihood depends on it, like obviously you have to be a true believer to sell it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing when people would do Advocare, you know, and they wanted to sell that, you know. Oh, it's the best thing ever. It's so much cleaner than everything else. That's all I do. It's all I do. It's like, yeah, well, because you want me to believe that you love it. It's affiliate marketing, but you're just the owner of the company. Um, so
What was that smoothie shop that people also did? Getting sidetracked here.
oh, they used to use Herbalife, but yeah,
That's what it was.
and then they would
You can
open
own your
smoothie
own
shops,
smoothie store. Yeah.
but it wasn't to avoid FDA. It was like you didn't pay for the smoothies; you were purchasing like protein because otherwise, if you were purchasing it as food, then it would be like they had to,
You had to have a license to
yeah, to like
like
sell like food items, and they'd have to
mhm.
go through inspections and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, not to go way off the rails, but like same thing. Like they're all gonna like truly believe in that because they have to sell it. It's their livelihood, their mortgage, their insurance depends on that. So I think that's like one of those things that can often confuse people because then they'll come through very passionate about it, and they're gonna tell you this is the end all be all and how to this will solve all your problems. But then you kind of look at it from like the okay, like we've never really had a problem with this before, why should I start looking now? And then you kind of go through like the thought process of, well, maybe it's problems that weren't there because I didn't notice them and I should look into that to identify those. But in the same coin, it's maybe those don't matter, like you had said. And it's like you have to be very skeptical. I think coming into it as a non-believer and is like the best thing because you'll have like something that is insurmountable has to kind of like flip you of like okay, like that's something you can take. um and even then I think a lot of it isn't isn't necessarily about, okay, I believe fully in the system versus I'm going to take two or three pieces from there because that's something that can probably be applicable. That's like the two big things I would say. But I think a lot of it, in all honesty, like when you have these like third parties and so on and so forth that like kind of come in, they do the continuing education, whether it be, ISA, PRI, whatever new thing is going to be taking over the industry for the next year and a half, all of that stuff, I don't know if it matters. And that's me being an extreme skeptic of like, number one, like let's take like infrasternal like angles, right? Yeah, it can affect your breathing. You can't change that. And if you have 100 guys in a room, are you really individualizing everything because of those things? And then if you do that as well as like a PRI or another kind of like differentiator that's going to make some buckets for you. Now they're in this bucket, but they're also in this one, and now but this one's in this one, and they have to be in this one, and you have all these X's, and it's like, okay, well everything ends up coming back out to being like essentially the same program because this mitigating factor is nullified by this one, so it kind of shifts them back here, and that kind of thing. So it ends up being like, okay, whatever happened, it just kind of like, hey, let's write a program based off of their, whether it be position specific needs, their athletic developmental needs, and then if one modality, like a lot of this is really about modalities, um, and like exercise selection for stuff, or modifying a prep. Why don't you just keep it varied a lot, and then find out what works for that individual? Isn't whatever happened to that? Oh, this kid hates putting a bar on their back and they can't do it right, so we're gonna make them front squat or searcher, or just as a stupid example, or they have a tough time like getting in a regular bench press. We should go dumbbell and give them a more neutral grip. Like I feel like all of it has to be just so systemized, which I think creates a problem
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of coaches who have to then apply that system versus having their own.
Yeah. I think another thing too, like when I look, there can be some good rules of thumb when you're looking at so-called like experts
Mm-hmm.
to know whether they're, I don't want to say whether they're trustworthy, but I'm a little bit more inclined to like trust them more if they're one, if someone's always speaking in absolutes, like that's usually a red flag to me. Like
My alarm bells are
there's,
ringing.
yeah, like there's very few absolutes like that I'm gonna like believe in. Like maybe
Death.
like, yeah, death and taxes, and the
Yeah.
fact that you should probably train if you want to be the
Yeah.
best athlete you can. Like,
Death, Taxes, and Bed Boys is the best podcast that you should be listening
yeah,
to.
goddamn right. But if someone says something, okay, you should never do X exercise, or you should only do X exercise for this, or you should, if this hurts, you should never do this. Stop, like speaking in absolutes where there's no room for, nuance and caveats. That's usually a red flag for me. Um, Another, and it just shows like a lack of open mindedness.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's like, to me, that's like you went a little bit too far down. You drank a little bit too much of your own Kool-Aid. So like the one thing that I really appreciate from this week's the con we did was the guy was like, yeah, like I don't know everything. Sometimes like I don't know why this shit works, but it does, and I just kind of fuck around and try to figure stuff out. And he wasn't afraid to like admit that like sometimes like yeah, I don't know why that works, but I've seen good results, and I think it's because of this. Um, and he was very open to questioning stuff. It wasn't like a rigid system, which like I really appreciated. And just sometimes you just kind of have to have like a bullshit meter too. Like another thing
Yeah.
that a really good quote that he says, because I think, and to be honest, I haven't really gotten into like the PRI infrasternal angle stuff. So this is um I am like ignorant to that, but like from what I've heard, like okay, like they might say like, oh, your shoulder pain is coming from
Your
your big,
diaphragm,
yeah, or
because
your
your
big toe
liver
or
is,
some shit.
yeah.
Yeah, and he was basically like, yeah, like that just doesn't make sense to me. And I think like local issues usually have local problems, and then if I explore everything locally and it's still not there, then I'll move a little bit further away. Like your shoulder problem is probably because it's something around your shoulder. And if it's not, okay, then maybe I'll look at your spine or your elbow or something. But it's
Yeah,
probably not your knee or your ankle. More than likely. Yes, there's always one-off cases where that's true, but like it's a lot easier to look closer to the problem for the solution, like where the pain point is. So I think yeah, people that speak in absolutes and people that aren't like as open-minded, like it's tough to learn if you think you already know it. You can't
yeah.
learn it if you think you already know it. I think is a good rule of thumb as well, and that goes for everybody.
That's that's super. I mean, that's a really good one right there because it's like how many times you kind of go into there and you're like, okay, I know everything. So you're not really actively listening. You're not trying to absorb any information.
Mm-hmm.
You're essentially just, we've all been there, depending on whatever situation it is, even if you're just having a conversation with somebody and they're going to tell you something about a situation that happened. You kind of half listen because you're like, okay, I already know all this. You're just like confirming the information I have in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So it is really hard to like learn something new, especially like you said, like when you know it, when you feel like you know it all. Um, the other aspect, like people speaking in absolutes, that's what I really liked about like Charlie Weingroff, like watching him speak at CVASP. Shout out CVASP. Jay puts on a great conference. But Charlie stood up there and he started working through things and he wanted people. He's like, I want you to interrupt me as I go, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
answer questions throughout this. And people
Yep.
would ask a question that might negate what he was talking about, and he'd go, well, that changes a lot of things. And to be honest, like then this is probably not the best way to do it. You would probably go this way, but we'd probably have to run a lot more. Like, like he was talking about essentially a little bit of like not a functional movement screen, but like a range of motion test on like a table. And he's like, well, that would change this. And I really don't know what that answer would be. I'd have to probably just go dig into that a ton, like to figure that out. And like just having somebody being very open and candid, I think is like that's a green flag. Like when you have someone who's coming in to teach you,
Yeah.
because they're going to tell you like, okay, this is like the extent of my knowledge. I'm going to give you everything. And when you show me a situation, like, being able to say, I don't know, but I can try and find that. Like, it depends. Like, versus like immediately coming out like before you finish your question, they're like, actually, no, that would be perfect because that's when it goes like it's almost like you feel like you were in a setup of like a street performer who's going to show you like the cards behind your ear. Like it was all a ruse to try and lead you down to the path to like try and like grift you, you
Yeah.
know? Those things are so different. I think like when you go to like continuing education, I think that's what makes it really tough too. Like when you do, like you guys do probably a really good job of it because it's a smaller setting, I would assume, right? It's probably like 20, 30 people in the room.
Yeah, we usually do like S&C and then medical. But I will say like this is only the second one I've been to. We did one in January, but that one I feel like this one was way better than that one. I didn't really like
Mm-hmm.
the guy we brought in January. I feel like that was more like oh like you got to think of like what the goal is too. Like my goal isn't to like improve a table test for a guy. My goal is to like improve their performance on the field. And
Yeah.
I just feel like this guy was more about that. Like he showed us some really good stuff that I think is really applicable for like athletes in general, but especially for like overhead athletes. Like we got into, basically like baseball. Okay, I'm going on a rift here, but like baseball S&C, I think it is changing. Like people are getting more, like they're realizing that okay, like you can't just only do landmine press and avoid, you like can't just do landmine press and neutral grip chin ups and like split squats and think that's going to be good. Like people are being asked to throw harder and harder. Like the velocity craze is here and it's here to stay. I think like the upper body, I do think like the lower body training is usually solid, but I think the upper body training and how we prepare like throwers and even overhead athletes, like I mean, volleyball players could be the same thing. How we prepare like the upper body needs to kind of catch up to how hard people are throwing because you're seeing like a lot more people throw really fast, but also a lot more injuries along with that if you're not prepared for that. So like he showed us some really good things, like obviously people do dead hangs pretty often, but can you do that on like a single arm? You'd be
Mm-hmm.
shocked how many people can't do like a single arm like dead hang. Basically, like, we do plyometrics and stuff for the lower body. What's the equivalent of that for the upper body? What's exercises where you can get your body weight in force, 1 to 2 times, swinging, hanging, more gymnastics type stuff. So like I think that was really good. It's tough because like especially when going back to you when you're doing continuing ed, obviously a bigger group is going to be hard to please everybody if you're bringing in one
Yeah.
speaker. And if you're multiple, if it's just a strength and conditioning staff, okay, maybe a little bit easier to kind of cater towards that. But if you're going, okay, S&C and medical, okay, you're going whole player development staff, like you're never going to like make everybody happy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I think if you want to learn something, like you can,
You will
that's
learn
kind
it.
of you will learn. Like you're going to be open minded. You
Mm-hmm.
may not agree with everything, and you may learn like, okay, that's what not to do. Like you're going to find a way to take something away from that.
Like like I said, the other thing, like with a smaller group, it promotes more question asking, and it becomes a immersive learning versus someone speaking at you versus like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the, you know, for some for a little bit of it, the like larger conferences are kind of money grabs for those organizations because it's about getting as many people there as possible versus like those smaller settings or the smaller ones. It's like that's where the immersive learning is. Um, One thing that's really helped me as it comes to like continuing ed is I kind of approach it as like I want to get two things that I think are great from this that I can steal, and I want to get two things that I think are stupid or dumb or not applicable, however you want to put it. But it lets you kind of like go in there. It's like, okay, where are you coming to where it's like, okay, you don't think that you'll take everything and change everything you do based off of this, as well as what are some things that you really like about this that you can change or modify to fit into what you do, even if it's just the way you think about something. But that way you come into it in a very open mind versus closed off of like I'm not going to get anything out of this is stupid, and then you don't pay attention, or they're the savior, I'm going to change everything I do the way that they do it because that's going to change it because when you take everything like either way of those, you're not going to have a good result versus kind of coming into it and saying I want to grab a couple things I love, a couple things I don't like. I'm gonna take that information, make those notes, and then I'm gonna look at this myself. And then what's really good is like when it is smaller, like you guys have, you can ask those questions about the stuff you did like to dig further. You can ask the stuff you don't like. You know, why do you do it like this? We've seen X, Y, Z, or I don't really think that that would be applicable here. Whatever it is, let them fill in those blanks because then you can at least judge their thought process because
Mm-hmm.
at the very least of like the stuff you don't like, you'll be able to go, okay, I know more about what I do like to better run it based off of the information and the conversation I have, or I see where their point is and it's making me think differently. At the very least, in that context, you're gonna walk away from that conversation having learned something, whether it be about their system or about yourself and your system, to where you're better off than what you came into it before.
Yeah, and I think that was like it depends on who the presenter is because two people can teach the same material
Differently.
differently, and there's definitely better and worse ways to do it. And that was one thing that I think this guy did a really good job of was he started off like, yeah, like I don't want to sit here and just lecture to you. I hate that. Interrupt me like whenever, and I want to make this more like interactive. And that just made it a lot like it just made it a lot better. And like he was willing to like change course and like kind of get off topic for a little bit if that was what we wanted. And then we also did like a lot more like practical stuff. Like we didn't just sit there and like, yeah, there was some like a little bit of lecturing, but then we would go out, try some of the stuff. We even brought in some of our like athletes that were still there that were having issues. And we're like, all right, how would you solve this? And like some of the shit, I was like, damn, like I would have never thought of how to do that. And whether it was placebo or actually got something figured out, the players did seem to feel a little bit better after he made like a little bit of an intervention. So it was like, I think you can see whenever you can see someone's thought process in action versus just hearing them lecture off of, their slides, I think that's more valuable and that gives a little bit more credibility versus just like spitting information in your face. And it's just
Mhm.
also it's just super boring. Like that's like I feel like that's like the worst way to learn, just getting talked at the whole time. Yeah, not fun.
I agree. And like the other thing too is like you guys had an idea of like who was coming in, right? You weren't kind of coming in blind.
Hmm.
So like a good thing for that too is like try to understand like what that person is, and obviously you'll never get a good idea. It's always the best thing when you search social media. But if they have other materials that are available, obviously don't just purchase 1,000 books to and then try to cram it in. But you can come in with different questions too that they might provide an answer for just by speaking to you. So it just allows you to when you come in naked, it's really hard to kind of get the ideas and grasp them at firsthand versus like having an idea or at least a foundational grasp of whatever it is they're going to talk about to where like when they go deeper they can kind of go deeper into a point and fill in some of those blanks to help provide answers to those questions or those things that you do and don't like. It's continuing education is such a weird thing because you'll look at something you're going to be very biased towards like what you're passionate about when you continue education.
Hmm.
You know, you're going to want to improve probably the things you're really good at because you like those things. So you've already done a lot to improve at them versus, the stuff that you might need more work on, you might not be interested in. So you're probably not going to be as avid about expanding the knowledge on it, even though it's probably where you need to be the best at or like do the most work with.
Right. But I think on the other end of that, it's like, is it better just to follow something that you're more curious about because you'll pay more attention to it versus like, okay, I think that's a double-edged sword because yeah, you might have something that you're lacking in, but you're just not interested in it very much.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a different story if it's like something that like needs to be addressed right now. But I typically think like, I think it's normal for us to be like, okay, like you have to read all these books, certain books that are like the classics. If you haven't read those, like that's kind of your, what are you doing? But like, I don't know. For me, like following your curiosity is typically like a pretty will lead you down
A pretty
a
good
good
path.
path. Yeah, because like you're just gonna pay that much more attention to it. Like, okay, if someone says, "Hey, like you need to read Super Trading from cover to cover before you get into any of that fancy stuff," and it's like, okay, I'll get back to you in 3 years when I'm done reading that book.
Yeah. The first time through.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it is a little bit of both because there is some stuff like, okay, if you're really into, you know, learning how to build, methods in the weight room, strength, hypertrophy, power, but you're not super interested in speed stuff. Okay, I get that, but you obviously know that they're both important. And it's also like too, like there's some stuff that just is marketed better, and you see people doing it, so like you might want to do that. But are you actually interested in it, or are you just saying, "Oh, I want to go to the Altus Summit because everyone else is going to the Altus Summit"?
Fair enough.
I don't
Actually,
know. You wearing your Altus Summit shirt?
shout out to the
God
Alta
damn
Summit.
it!
Shout out to the Alta Summit. I did actually get a lot from that. Um,
Yeah.
that was a great summit. Talking about continuing ed, like even if we just don't think like they didn't kind of come in like a lot of the presenters and be like, this is the best way to train speed. It was very much like taking a step back and like, how do we think about that? Um, and like Stu kind of talking about his training system of like to run fast you have to run fast. Everyone knows that. It's like, and we all know the work to rest ratios, we all know the appropriate distances and whatnot. He's like, but how do you think about what an athlete is moving and watching them move is probably more important to learn more about them to how you modify it. Like, are they very candid at, you know, touchdown in their gait cycle versus very violent at takeoff? Well, part of it is like 50% of the gate cycle. One part of it's only 20%, but that 20% is actually more impactful in that 20% of the cycle than the 50%. So the hip flexion isn't nearly as important as the extension. So we should train a lot more extension. And that made me think, because I was like, okay, well, honestly, I think a lot about hip flexion when I think of like acceleration, because people don't flex their hip enough to come back down. But I was almost like thinking, like, maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse of, I'm worried about that to get the higher force at extension versus like just worry about getting higher forces at extension, and the other one will come along with it. It was
Mhm.
like one of those things where it's like, maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way. So there's cool things, kind of to take away from that aspect. And I think stuff like that is really good, to just kind of come into it, of, like you said, the open mind of like, take a couple things that you do and don't like, and work through it. And then if you have a chance, like, this is another thing, like, if you're going to a conference, I think a happy hour, you know, even if you don't drink, whatever it is, have some food up there, but like, put everyone in the room, put everyone in a room, let them talk, and don't allow business conversations. That's like a big thing. Like, you don't want someone to go be like, oh, can you follow me, or I'd love to get a job with you, that kind of stuff. Like, it's got to be either like you talk about everything else but the stuff, or you talk about just their presentation. Allow yourself to ask questions. I think that's super beneficial, because you know
Just a more
it
relaxed setting.
it's a more relaxed setting. You can have those one-on-one conversations, which I loved. Again, not to continuously go, CVAS was awesome, but like, they do a barbecue at the end, and you just sit there and you're talking. Like, I sat there and talked with Cam Joss about his presentation for like 20 minutes, and I was like, this is what I was thinking based off of that. Like, what do you think? That those kind of things. And shout out Greg for interrupting it, but um
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
but like, it gives you an opportunity to kind of like dig a little deeper and dig further. And I could see, you know not to say like I had like Cam Joss being like, oh, I'll think about that, but like, you could see him like, kind of like, when I ask a question, be like, oh, that is like a different point of view. This is probably how I would approach that, even just from having like experience doing something like that. So it was really cool to have those conversations, and even with the other people who were there, just to participate and kind of view it in the same point as I was. Pretty cool, just to like gather different viewpoints and ideas, and think about things differently. So I guess that's my take on continuing ed.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a couple times before. I feel like the one part also that is can get lost, and like I've been guilty of this too, is like the actual application piece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and part of this is a little bit of a problem of we're coming up on recertification here. You're here in 2026. People are going to be scrambling to get CEUs, and the stuff that's up for CEUs isn't always the stuff that you're interested in or even super valuable. So a lot of
Correct.
times you end up just like sitting through a course, taking a quiz just to say you did it so you can get those CEUs. But actually, you can do too much con ed to the point where you're just consuming and you're not really applying anything. And I think that can be really dangerous, because then you say like, okay, like I did all this, but like I'm the only thing that I'm just more confused, or I just have more information. I'm not actually doing anything with it. That's something that I've definitely been guilty of before. So I think like immediate application in some capacity is super important. Like, okay, what's one or two things you can apply like immediately, even if it's in your own training? And I think that's even maybe a better way to do it. Like in your own training, implement one or two things, try it out for a few weeks, see if you like it, or on a smaller scale, like give it to your athletes, see if you like it, versus just, okay, I took a bunch of notes, now I won't look at them until I you know happen to stumble upon this notebook in a few months, and oh yeah, that was fun, and then you forget about it again.
I got a little bit of a question for you here, and it's kind of flipping the script here on something way different, but it's something I've been thinking about.
So
How much do you think men and women's training differ? Because I have a way I want to dig deeper on this and a thought, but I want to see what your idea is first.
I don't think it's as much as people think, because this is interesting. If you look at a lot of like the old texts, like
Mm-hmm.
um I can't remember what that one book was, but you'll get to the end, it'll say like, all right, special populations like female and youth, like they're all like sometimes females are looked at as like special populations when it comes to training, and
Yeah.
it's it shouldn't be to me. Like, yes, okay, there's some things that are like just physiologically like a little bit different. Okay, yeah, men are gonna have more testosterone. Women typically have higher risk of ACL injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Women are going to be a little bit less. Women can typically work at higher percentages. Like a guy might be able to eke out like a double at 90% on a back squat.
Whereas a
Like a
female might be
girl,
able to work out a four.
five, yeah, 4 or 5. Like that's something they usually handle volume a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
We can get into the nitty gritty about why that is. Could be a multitude of reasons.
But across the
I,
spectrum, typically handle it better.
yeah, I don't think it should differ a whole lot, to be honest with you. Like, yes, they're not the same,
Mm-hmm.
but like I mean, they're different sexes in the same species.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
hate to like put, I don't know how else to put it. Yeah, I don't think they should differ a whole lot. I think the way that you probably coach them is going to probably be the biggest difference. Like
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable yelling in a dude's face versus yelling in a girl's face. You know what I mean?
Very much.
Um, Typically, you'll see like guys are usually have better upper body strength relative to their body weight versus girls. I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that though comes from, yeah, like the testosterone plays into it, but typically females like doing lower body more than upper body, and guys like doing upper body more than lower body. Like that's
Yeah.
just kind of like a personal preference, cultural type of thing. I don't think it should differ a whole lot, to be honest with you. Like I don't know if my process changes a whole lot.
I've been
Yeah,
thinking
I don't.
I've been thinking about this a little bit more, particularly in the form of like field work or sprinting. And it's just a trend that I've seen over the past like 5 or 6 years that it's starting to be obviously like being the sprints coach, like you start to see things a little bit more and more and more on a daily basis. So you start to think about it a little bit more. And it was a theory I had a little bit earlier in my career. And it was that men were typically really good at acceleration. Females typically, I think that they meet in the middle at like top speed stuff, but women are really good at the endurance or like the speed endurance aspect. Um,
Maybe that
uh,
relates back to they do a little bit better with handling volume too, potentially.
yeah, and that's kind of where I'm like thinking on this, to where it's like, if you look at like track and field, it's like most men will be able to jump out of the blocks like immediately. They might not make it 40 meters, but they'll be able to jump out of the blocks. And that's maybe like a higher test, maybe you can go into like a wiring of the central nervous system, whatever it may be, or just a higher like relative strength index and reactive strength index on an average based off of probably the hormonal profile. Um, Whereas they might falter immediately on a speed endurance, whereas like females can, you can probably rip some repeat stuff and they're gonna do pretty well. So it's like started to like, as I look into like our like programming, I should say, like where I'm not necessarily with them. It's like, okay, what are the things that like we can get done with minimal equipment and or minimal space, and B, what do I think we need to work on? And I'm like, I'm just looking at this and I'm starting to like think, I'm like, I want to like hammer home acceleration. So I started talking with some of my other friends who have coached or are coaching, and they're like, yeah, we just go a ton in on acceleration because we think like that's like our biggest thing that we need to work on, which is kind of maybe a confirmation bias on this. And as I kind of build through like building out this like program, I'm like, I kind of want to address like acceleration twice a week and speed endurance once a week, for these 3-4 weeks that they're not with me. The max speed will kind of get taken as you drag out the acceleration. So maybe like, you know, typically you kind of go like 20 to 30 is like that like end of people's acceleration. But if you extend it to 40, they're probably going to get tall, probably touch on that on the max V stuff, or like that first part of their speed endurance rep, they'll probably hit the residual on top speed. So it's like, why don't we use that time to address those big things? And I think bringing it all the way back on like the difference between men and female, it's like I don't know if men need as much acceleration work. I think they need the technical skill component. Um, I've typically seen that women are very more refined, at least at like this level in collegiate. Like women are more refined in the technical component versus men are a little bit more raw and like they need more work there, but they have like the output that's just they have an output.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on things. Like I don't think it changes much in the weight room, to be honest. Um,
No.
they can handle more volume and go forward, but okay.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I just haven't had that perspective in like almost 2 years. Like since I left, like I'm only working with
Yeah.
baseball, so like I don't know if I have like the best answer for you there. I will say like a lot of times when you see a higher prevalence of like non-contact knee injuries in females, a lot of the times get too graphic here, but a lot of times that lines up with when they're like menstruating because
Hmm.
they're losing blood. Ligaments don't usually get a lot of blood anyway. Usually the blood is going to the muscles, tendons are getting less, ligaments are getting less. And then
Everything's a
you
little bit
combat that.
drained.
Yeah, it's a little bit drained. So you're just a lot of times when when girls get hurt like that, it lines up pretty closely with that. So I don't know if there's a good way to like alter training based on that because but I think that's something that like if you really want to get nitty gritty, I would be interested in if you came up with a protocol or like altercations to training based off of that. And I think
Yeah.
you really need a good buy-in and a good relationship with the athletes too.
To
That's going
tell
to be
to give that
yeah, yeah,
information.
yeah. That's going to be the biggest thing. And I think
Yeah.
maybe that could be communicated by the sport coach or someone else that they trust a little bit more. I'd be interested to see if that would impact non-contact knee injuries over a course of time.
I have a feeling that you might. It would just depend on what the intervention would look like based off of
Yeah,
that.
and that's where it gets
Um,
real hairy. Like, do you
of like, do you
just
do you shut somebody down? Is it like a
yeah?
reduction in the
Because at the
volume?
end of the day, like you got to play. Like you got to
Yeah.
play in games. I don't know if that's if you reduce practice volume during that 1 week, or like
Yeah.
that's
Whatever it
that's
may
where it get
be.
yeah that's where it gets tough. Or maybe that just becomes okay. You're not going to avoid that. You just need to work more on strengthening and building a robust system in general
Hmm.
and try to mitigate the risk of that anyway.
It's an interesting thought because if you look at it from like okay, like we're all the same species, you typically have a couple trends that happen on one side or the other. Do you address those? And then you look at it on like where you're kind of coming from, of like, do you vastly modify it and pull more information that someone essentially may not be comfortable with in order to try and
Yeah.
push the product forward? Or B, do you just never think about that? Or is it like, is that best served in like they bring the information to you and then you just walk things back a little bit to provide it's such a different scenario. Whereas on the other side, it's very simple. It's like you don't have to necessarily worry about that, um,
Yeah.
in a sense, because like, you, uh, I was gonna say something, but I'm like, I don't want us to get canceled.
No, yeah, but I do. I would be very surprised if they weren't taking that into consideration at like super high levels, like Olympic
You
level,
almost
national
have
team
to,
level. Like, yeah,
especially because it's like less of a there's less population, so it's easier to customize something around somebody, and the competitions are fewer and far between to where
hmm
you can modify the training, you know.
yeah,
And it's I would assume at that level you have to, and you
hmm
do,
right,
because it's a group of like 1 to 5 people
yeah,
with competitions spaced 4 to 6 weeks apart, depending on I'm thinking at like the Olympic level,
hmm
um, where you can modify all that training, and it can be written into the plan, to kind of go forward, and it becomes a little bit easier to do so.
right. Yeah, I don't know. The differences between like male and female training is interesting because I think it's something that almost gets glossed over. Like you learn those few facts that we just spit out. Like I feel like I learned
Hmm.
that like in class in college.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe there's a little bit more to it. And like I said, like I haven't really had to think about that. Um, but for someone that does work with both, I think it's worth like digging into a little bit more. You may end up at the same spot that you started at, but at least like
Understand
you
it a
did,
little bit better.
yeah. And I think that's important. Like so,
I think a big thing is like you said, like when you learn it in class, they kind of go two ends of the spectrum of like nothing changes, you do everything the same way, or it's the complete opposite end where it's like they're so different, you need to change everything about how you train either one, versus like they're more similar than not, and you might just have to like change some nuances like here and there, but that's about it.
right.
And I don't know if we'll ever have the answer, and if we do, it'll probably come 4 years later after it actually is impacted. And
Yeah.
so it's just one of those things that's like, how do you go about it? What's the best way? I don't think you'll ever be wrong by trying to be better in how you understand it from like a like sense of goodwill. I think where you'll be wrong is probably the application of whatever knowledge you gather.
hmm
So yeah, that was just one of those things I was thinking of as I'm going through and writing like, what does this next month look like? What does, the following in season look like? And it's like, how do we, you always kind of go back on your old programs and you're like, where did it go wrong? What went right? How do I change what went wrong to make that better? And will that affect what went right?
hmm
And you start to question everything. It's a weird spot to be in. It's a good thing for the coach to do. It's a hard thing for the coach to do because you just have to sit there and be like, this is where I failed.
Yeah.
Um, so having to go make those improvements, like there is a little bit of like that. You slap yourself in the face of like, okay, we need to work on this,
hmm
and
Yeah.
being impartial to it will help you.
Yeah. 100%.
Mm-hmm. What are we thinking?
I'm thinking we should wrap this thing up. Let's get some ratings on these bad boys.
Yes, sir.
One more time for the sour, the war. I was gonna say blackheads. Blackheads energy drink. God, that'd be raunchy.
Ugh. It's just us popping them on the can.
Oh God. Hey, people make money off that.
That is true. That ASMR.
Yeah.
Um, can looks great. It's an incredible formula. Still tastes phenomenal. Like it's still such a good drink. I think we originally gave it like a 9.1 or an
Yep.
8.9, like somewhere around that high 8, low 9. I still think that's where it sits, like that 8.9 to 9.1 range. I think like you gave it one, I gave the other.
hmm
It's a sad drink to send off. I'll be honest with you. It's
Yeah.
super
I'm
good.
gonna have to pick one up before they go extinct.
When we all love new drinks, and we all love the newest flavor. My mouth is watering right now from sipping that last little bit. It's so good. We love the new drinks. We love the flavors. It's exciting, but it's. I hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave.
hmm
Like it's a good send off for a good drink.
Yeah, I'll have to pick one of those up before they go bye bye. For this rain storm, clean energy, guava. You're right. Guava
Before they go
strawberry
bye bye.
flavor. Yeah, before they go bye bye. Like the dodo bird, you know. Guava strawberry rainstorm. I would drink it again, but probably only in a pinch. It's not going to be my first. I don't think the rainstorm is going to be my preferred drink, and I don't think if I get it, it's just going to be my preferred flavor. I liked the kiwi blend one that I had yesterday a little bit more. It's not bad. Like the strawberry flavor definitely isn't. Obviously you have the strawberry candy from Grill of Mine. That's banging. The Strawberry Dreams Monster. That's banging.
Bad banging.
This is yeah, like this isn't blowing my socks off by any means in terms of flavor. It's not bad, but I did get it on a good deal, so it's gonna gain some points there. But I think overall I'm gonna have to give it like a 6.3. 6.3. It's, average, maybe slightly below. It's not terrible, but I'm probably not picking it up again.
It's okay, and that's where it belongs.
Yeah, that's where it belongs. But now we know. Now you know. So you don't have to get your hopes up.
I brought us in. You want to take us out?
Yes, sir. So
take me on the backyard and old yeller me.
All right, Lassie. As always, folks, appreciate you tuning in, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. We're coming up on 2 years of Bed Boys here in January, so it's really exciting. Gonna finish out the year here, holiday season. We're already in December, which is crazy. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, bedboys.tv. All your past, future, present clips of episodes. Working on hopefully getting some guests here now. We're getting kind of towards a little bit more of a downtime in, the S&C jobs, at least. People are having a little bit more downtime. We're going to have a little bit more downtime. Hopefully get some guests on here before the holiday season really heats up, and then start the new year off with a bang. Follow our personal Instagram pages. I can be found at French_fit40. Bad Boys clips, training, travel, all that good stuff. Brian can be found at
BSZUTKOWSKI. Shakuski Jacks.
Yep. Be on the lookout for some sick content, especially with track season coming up here shortly. Gonna be some good stuff there.
The show.
Yep. And then bedboys.com if you want to grab yourself a t-shirt. Could make a very good Christmas gift. Yeah, get a little bundle, a little hoodie t-shirt bundle, you know what I'm saying?
Could be a great Hanukkah gift.
Yep.
Do one every night.
Gift. Yep.
Boxing Day.
Little Boxing Day gift. Little hoodie t-shirt combo for Boxing Day.
I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Has that ever happened to you?
Has that ever happened to you?
Dude, I think you should leave. Might be
incredible.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I feel like you're just here for the zip line.
Yeah.
I feel like you're just here for the energy drink reviews.
That's not enough time. 3 seconds to think of something silly. That's fucking insane.
Let me get a bite of
that. Yeah, guys. Give me that. Appreciate you watching. New episodes every Sunday. As always, catch us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Instagram. Stay tuned for more. Appreciate you guys. And peace.
Peace.